In this lesson, I'm going to show you some different chord voicings we can use, some different chord shapes for those familiar chords that are in the key of G. So like this G chord here, this C add 9 chord, this D. Instead of just playing G, C, D, we could play something like this. G, C, D, gives it a really nice sound. We could also do this. G, C, D. So that's what I'm going to show you in this lesson. All right, so different chord voicings. Voicings is just another way of saying different chord shapes. So instead of playing, we have our G here, our C, D, E minor, the G over B. We can play these chords in different places on the fretboard here. So start off just with this C major. So we'll start off with this shape here. We're going to be sliding this up and down the fret a little bit to show you a couple of additional chords you can use. So this C major, this is going to be our shape. We can keep that pinky finger on the high E string. We can take it off, whatever you want to do. I would keep it on there for now just because it gives you a little bit of a bass. So we know this is a C chord. If we slide this whole shape, so if we slide this whole shape up 2 frets, you guys have probably seen me play this chord a lot. It's just that C-shaped D chord. So I don't have pictures for these and diagrams for these chords. So really we just have 1, 2, sliding that whole thing up 2 frets. So ring finger is now on the 5th fret. I've still got that pinky locked on there. So if we keep this whole shape, we slide it up to the 10th fret. That's a G chord. So we have our ring finger on the 10th fret and everything else is the same. So C, D, G. So you can do some nice finger picking. With those chords there. If you wanted to strum them, I would probably keep that pinky finger locked in there. It's not going to sound super good if you strum it with that high E string open. So sounds a little bit off, so I would either keep that pinky finger on the high E string or just mute it with your pointer finger. Just kind of intentionally, purposefully play and kind of hit these bassier notes up here. So that's one sequence of chords that we can use. Some other ones, just like we have our C major, and we slide that up to this D here. We can also do this C add 9 and slide it up to the 5th fret also, and that will turn this chord into a D chord. I personally don't play this one a ton, just because I like this one better. Sounds a little more like dissonant and stuff. But you could easily just, if you're... So that's another chord voicing you can use get to a new D chord here. So I don't think there's anywhere else up here on the fret. There probably is, I just don't know that you can take this C add 9 shape and get it to turn into another chord up here. There might be somewhere, but you could also do that, the C add 9 into the D chord there. So our next set of chords, our next set of voicings, shapes, we're gonna be using the shape of the G. So I did a lesson on this one maybe a year or two ago. I'll link that in the description and up here in case you need just some more of a breakdown on it. But really, just like we took that C major shape, we're gonna take this G shape, slide it up the fret, and we're gonna play, so our G, C, D. So the G, the C, so the middle finger and your other two, your ring and your pinky finger, those are gonna be on the 8th fret. That's your C. And then if you slide it up 2 more, 1, 2, that's a D. So it's all in this G shape here. So G, C, D. And again, if you wanted to strum these, I usually just kind of use mainly these 2 fingers, and I mute out that high E string with kind of the fleshy part there on my finger, and I mean you could definitely play the whole thing, but these are also really nice ones to finger pick. So when we're up here, we're gonna keep really that ring finger locked onto that B string. And then another chord, since we're up here, another chord we can do is a G over B, which, you know, just get into your C position here, your G formation, but remember this is a C chord. And you're just gonna take your pointer finger, put it on the 7th fret of that low E string, and that's your G over B. Sometimes I'll do it like this. Sometimes I'll do it like that, with both the ring finger and the middle finger on that 7th fret. So if we were playing a chord progression for the song Build My Life, that would start off with G, C, G over B to the C. So, you're worthy of every song you could ever sing. You're worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. So for that one, I would probably just keep, for that G over B, I would just keep the ring finger on that 8th fret, because that didn't sound fully right to me. So, worthy of every song we could ever sing. You're worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. And remember, we have this G up here. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. You're worthy of all the praise you could ever bring. So there's some switching there. I probably wouldn't do that unless you were really comfortable with things, but just to show you that C major, sliding that up here, you can go from that G to that C, G over B, C. So a couple more sets of chord voicings that you can use. These ones will be just these two I'm going to show you. They're going to be a little bit more simple. They're not a lot of sliding. So you've probably seen on chord charts before, or on chord charts, C over G. So that's just your C major, but you add in that bass note up here. You're adding that G note, and just an easier way of doing this is going like this. Instead of reaching up and getting that pinky up there. You can do it whatever's easier for you, but I normally just do this. And then you can easily slide that up. Remember, that's our D chord there. We're just adding that bass note. So this is one type of a C over G. Another type of a C over G is just we would get into like a G major position here with our ring finger and pinky finger. And then with these two fingers, the pointer and the middle finger, you're gonna form like an A minor. So like an A minor 7, or like this A minor here. And then just bring your ring finger up top, and that'll be a C over G. It's gonna have like a folky, maybe a little bit more country C over G. So the song Graves in the Garden, and I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. They use that C over G there. Hammering onto there. So those would just be two different types of C over G chords. So then the last set of chord voicings we can use that I know of in the key of G, these are really, really nice sounding chords. So So I'm just using two fingers, and we're gonna be really, you can use your ring finger on this B string, or you can use your pinky. I think the pinky is a little bit easier because you've got a couple of stretches here, and then a stretch right there. So we'll use our pinky finger. So really what this is coming from, so we have our G, and then we know that our G over B is taking that middle finger off. And that's our G over B. So really what I'm showing you is the first note, the first chord, we're taking that pinky finger off, and we're just playing a G over B. And then we slide, we're gonna keep our ring finger. I'm gonna be using the pinky, but just for the sake of explaining it off of this chord shape here. So we're gonna keep this ring finger on this B string the entire time. So G over B, C, E minor, D. So as you can see, my hand here is in a little bit of some weird positioning. It's gonna make it a little bit easier if you use your pinky finger. So even though it might look different, we're still just doing that G over B. I'm just using the pinky finger on that high E string. And then obviously just that pointer finger, or you can use the middle finger. So G over B, C. So pinky finger's on the 5th fret, pointer finger is on the 3rd fret of the A string because that's the C, right? And then we go up here, we're on the 8th fret with the pinky, we're on the 7th fret with the middle finger. Middle finger is going to be on that A string. That's an E minor. Slide the pinky finger down 1 to the 7th fret. Put your pointer finger on the A string. On the 5th fret, that's a D. Because this D, remember? We've got our D note there. So G over B, C, E minor, D. And you can just rock that chord progression. It sounds so good. So once you get it down, it sounds just really smooth, really just kind of a little ambient. And then remember, we have that G up here. So if we wanted to, we can go, let's see, pointer finger on that A string, 10th fret, and then the pinky finger on that B string, 12th fret. So G over B, C, D, E minor, D, G chord up here. So when you have all of these different chord variations and chord voicings, you can play just so many cool and different chord progressions. Instead of just doing, let's say, a G to an E minor to a C to a D, we can go G, E minor, C to the D. We can do C, G over B, E minor, D, C, G over B, E minor, D. Then we could go, let's see, we could start off with a D to an E minor, and then to the D, and then to a G. D, so those are most of the chord voicings that I use. There might be a couple of additional E minors that you can do. I think in the lesson I did on this C-shaped D chord, you can slide up to this E minor here. So I don't think I'll do that in this lesson. I'll just link that one that I've done. You could also do, as part of that E chord, you just take the pinky finger off. You got your pointer finger and your ring finger, E minor, D, C. So I know I just threw a lot at you. You might need to watch this a couple of times. You might need to watch it many times, but these are so many different cool and fun variations in chord voicings in the key of G. So let me know if you have questions on any of them, if you're struggling with any of the chord formations, and I'll definitely do the best I can to help you out. So love y'all. Hope this helps. See you guys soon.